Hi, everyone. Good evening. We are going to get started at about 6:05. We are waiting for everyone to have the opportunity to come in. So please bear with us and we'll get started right away. All right. Good evening, everyone. My name is Jasmine Isaac, and I am the Community Engagement Specialist for this project, the Page Avenue Sidewalk Gap. Um, I'm certain that you have seen my face and many others throughout the time of engagement for this project. And we're here this evening to share with you some of the designs that we've come up with in order to implement this sidewalk in your neighborhood. So before we get started, just some quick technology specs. Most, if not all of you, have logged in with Zoom by either the link or the phone number. Throughout the session, you will be able to ask questions. There is a Q&A box. You can drop your question there. And during the Q&A segment, we will answer those questions accordingly. Also, during the Q&A session, you will be able to raise your hand with that function at the bottom of the screen, and we can also call upon you as well. For those who have dialed in, you can see that you must dial *9 to signify that you've raised your hand, and then we will be able to address your question. Other important information, if you see the poll tab in your taskbar, you can open up our demographic poll. This is 100% optional. We use this to gather data on our meetings and, of course, know who and the demographic of people we're addressing as we work with the community. It's greatly appreciated if you can, but if you're not comfortable doing that, that's okay as well. And lastly, it's important that during these meetings, they are online. I know we're not face-to-face, but still respecting one another is just as important online as it is in person. This is an opportunity to learn. So we ask that you come with an open mindset, being willing to be patient with others' ideas, and of course, respectful to each and every person's thought and opinion. So a very quick overview of what we'll cover today. We're going to circle back to check out the project's history and overview, just so we're assured that we're all on the same page. I know it's been a while since we've met. We're going to look at the designs that the engineering and our contracting team have devised. And then after that, whatever questions you have about the designs, we will be able to address those. And finally, we'll wrap up with some information on the next steps, which will be the timeline that you would expect us to be in your neighborhood and where you can go if you would like some more information along the way. These important people are who you can touch base with throughout this process. And even after this meeting tonight, we have our we have myself, the engagement specialist, we have our city transportation experts, and of course our contractors. And lastly, who you'll hear from the most today, our project manager, Jane Allen. And I'm going to turn it over to her. Jane, I believe you are muted.
Okay, good morning. Good evening, everyone. Um, Thank you for coming to this information meeting. I hope a lot of you came on the walking tour. We had a lot of input from the residents, and it was a really good experience for staff to gather information. I'll get back to that in a little bit, but the project purpose and need is that there's a lot of gaps to our sidewalk system in the city, and we'd like to fill those. We have developed a prioritization system for the sidewalk gaps, and all the gaps in the system were evaluated based on low, medium, high priority. And then we were able to use the information that we gathered in that sense to come up with a cost estimate for these gaps and possibly put them in the CIP for future installation. But the reason that the city is moving to fill these gaps is because it improves pedestrian safety in the community and provides continuous user experience. We're encouraged to have active transportation, improve community health, and it also gives more transportation options to everyone in your neighborhood. I remember talking to a resident when we were doing the walking tour, and he doesn't walk his father in the neighborhood anymore because he's in a wheelchair and he doesn't have a safe place to transverse. So, thank you, Jazz.
Mm.
Oh, we're missing history.
Well, we can continue.
Okay, well, there was a slide for history. I can just talk through it though. The history of this particular project on Page Avenue is that in November 2020, the citizens of Ann Arbor voted to pass a millage to provide funding for new sidewalks, not just the sidewalk repairs and ramps that we've had in the past millage, but now we're starting to use funds which won't need to be specially assessed to adjacent property owners. So that's what happened in 2020. Then in August of 2022, we did get a petition for this particular road to have sidewalk gaps filled between Esch and Harpst. There were 62 people on this on the petition, and based on the prioritizations system that we've set up, there's different points allocated when a different amount of people want a particular infrastructure item. So that information is all on the new sidewalks website. That's going to be on a slide that you'll be able to view from the website too. So it talks about like what does the prioritization system include? Well, it's the system considers factors such as the closeness to transit, public schools, government buildings, attractors. Let's see. Then you also have the community support, which we got on Page, and obviously the safety. So what we had saw, there was no sidewalk along Page Avenue from 2525 Page Avenue, which is just south of Marlboro by one parcel, all the way to Harpst. So we had proposed new sidewalk along Page on both sides of the street, south of Marlboro, and along the east side of the street between Marlboro and Harpst Street. The reason we were doing it on both sides of the street on that short block is because there was already sidewalk existing within that block, but only up to half block location. So we're going to get the sidewalk all the way to the intersection, and then we will just concentrate on putting the sidewalk in on the east side. Oh, we got that. That's the history. So, there were some resident recommendation installations that we're not proposing tonight due to current city policies. So a lot of people suggested converting the street into a one-way so we could maintain a pedestrian boulevard sort of thing within the existing footprint of the road. So we wouldn't have to relocate curbs, we wouldn't have to put sidewalks into people's behind the curb that currently exists because the right-of-way on Page is so narrow. So these are two things that we can't propose for this project, but we have made some consideration based on what we heard. Yeah. So, you gotta go back one. Couple. Two more, Jasmine.
Forward or backwards?
Backward. Okay, so what we plan to do is construct a 5-foot concrete sidewalk to connect to the existing sidewalks along Page within the public right-of-way. So the public right-of-way is a platted area that is used for public utilities. Let's say your roads, your water, your sanitary, your storm, sidewalks, curb and gutter. So I know a lot of people have considered when there's not a sidewalk there that that land belongs to them and they can put in fences or plant trees. However, it is a public right of way and we would like to put sidewalk in there. So what we thought we would do is put the sidewalk on the east side. It will require having to replace some driveway aprons along the path and relocate some utility poles, street signs, some more landscaping and some existing fences. However, I'll mention when we get to further slides that if we do intend to remove something that's in the sidewalk path during excavation for installation, then we will always be in contact with the residents prior to construction, and therefore you can opt to like relocate your items prior to construction. And if we were to remove them with the construction, we would indicate to the contractor to just place those items behind the right of way, such as fences and landscaping items. But as far as trees, the contractor would remove those for you. So as I said, it was a very narrow right of way, so only 40 foot. And currently the road width is 23 feet. So people do park on Page, but it really doesn't even provide enough room for 2 passing cars and a parked car. So what we intend to do is reduce the width of the road to 20 feet. So each traveling lane will get 10 feet. That allows us to relocate the curb on the east side 3 feet into the existing roadway, which will then, allow some landscaping on the east side to be saved and also to provide the driveway length to be more accommodating because so many driveways are so close to the right-of-way line, driveways and garages. So we heard from a lot of residents that they wouldn't be able to park their car and stay off the sidewalk on the existing length of their driveway. So if we do this bump out, and I call it a bump out, but it's really going to be a narrowing of the entire length of the road, we can accommodate 3 extra feet on the east side. And the on-street parking that will need to be removed with this does have to go to City Council for a vote. There will be a hearing and we will put the date of that City Council meeting on the website so everyone can be informed. They can come to the City Council meeting and express any concerns they may have about losing parking. But that will affect the narrowing of this road, and therefore the original proposed locations that we talked about during the walking tours, which were behind the existing curbs as they are, people were not very happy about that. So I'm hoping there could be a compromise here, and everyone gets a little bit of what they wanted. Thanks, Jasmine. So this is just the overview of the entire length of the limits of Page. You can see it's north is to our right. So we start from the south and go north. So you got the 2 sidewalks on that first block south of Marlboro. Jasmine, if you want to zoom in a little bit. And then we will continue to hold that sidewalk on the east side, giving a 3-foot buffer zone, like a lawn extension. We need that for street signs, and also it allows you to have snow storage in the wintertime. So we will start the narrowing of the road all the way near Esch to provide sight distance on that little bit of a curve. We are able to put the sidewalk right up against the back of curb on the west side just for that one parcel, because there are no driveways off that side of the parcel, and also the few signs that we would need that lawn extension space have been deemed to be relocated. So Jasmine just wants to zoom through the entire length. I know you don't see this very well, you can't see the writing, but the consultants are going to go block by block and kind of explain the changes that were made since we heard from you, the proposed design that we've come up with, and any impacts that we weren't able to address. Thank you very much. So this is just a kind of a cross-section view of what it might look like from Marlboro to Harpst, because the sidewalk's only on the east side. So where you see that woman walking is a sidewalk. These are kind of generic drawings, so they don't actually look like your neighborhood homes. And I couldn't get a garage right up at the edge of the right-of-way there, but you can get the impression where that tree on the east side is over that concrete. I wanted to like indicate that might be a location where a tree might have to be removed, but you're getting a little, you're maintaining that driveway width if your driveway was, you know, from the back of sidewalk all the way to your garage.
All right, thanks, Jane. So as Jane mentioned, we're going to go into a block by block analysis. The exhibit that you see on the right side of the screen, that is a similar exhibit to what we brought along to the walkthroughs, but they have been modified for the new design layout as well as the revised impacts. So some of these blocks you're going to see are going to be very similar to what the impacts were previously, and that's for a number of reasons. Obviously, the location of some of these are still within the right-of-way, and they're still within the grading limits or still within the sidewalk limits. But to the best of our ability, we did modify these with the constraints that are remaining. So starting from the south, we're going to work our way from just north of Esch up to Marlboro. This is the first layout. The first item you can see that we changed was, as Jane mentioned, bumping the east side curb 3 feet into the existing pavement to maintain that 20-foot width. That is going to transition back to the existing pavement just south of Marlboro because it's a little bit wider down there. As far as impacts, there's an existing split rail fence on the east side of the roadway that is still scheduled to be relocated or removed just because of its location adjacent to the sidewalk. Same thing on the west side of the road. There's a fairly large tree there that's protruding into the right-of-way and is just based on the width of what we have from the back of curb to the right-of-way. That will need to be addressed in the project as well. And there's a handful of other utility relocations that we'll be working with those utility companies to address. As we go to the next block. Next block, you're going to see a common theme. We talk about the 20-foot width of pavement. We talk about the 3-foot greenbelt area that's specific to snow storage and buffer zone between the walking public and the driving public. That does provide for an additional 3 to 4 feet in between the sidewalk and the right-of-way. So that's a little more buffer area than what we had before. We had roughly 1 foot off the right-of-way. And because of that, that's going to lessen some of the impacts of both vegetation removal, but also especially tree removal. In this instance, I know there was a number of trees that we originally planned on needing to remove. Those have been removed from concerns because they are far enough away that we think we'll be able to save them. There's going to be a lot of vegetation trimming and possibly even some tree trimming as a part of this because we still need to maintain minimum height clearances and minimum lateral clearances, but it is better from an impact perspective than what we looked at previously. We go to the next exhibit. This area is going to be very similar. Again, you're going to maintain that 20 feet, the 3-foot width in between the back of curb and the sidewalk. You're going to be a little bit further away from some of these bushes and adjacent vegetation, but it is still going to need to be trimmed back just in order to provide that full width sidewalk and that full width greenbelt area. But there are a couple of smaller trees that we were able to save as a part of this, but overall it's still similar to the previous version. Go with the next block. Again, same theme. You're getting a little bit more driveway space than what was previously out there. There was a handful of trees that we were also able to save in this block as well, between Jewett and Rosewood, that were fairly close to the right-of-way, and or we were able to gap them in one of the greenbelt areas. So for the most part, still maintaining as minimum removals as possible moving forward. All right, and then we get to the last block. Last block, similar theme as before. I know I said that 20 foot width of roadway and the 3 foot greenbelt area, but again, there were a number of trees in this block that we were also going to remove, and those have now been removed from concerns. There's still a handful of existing bushes and existing shrubs that are going to need to be addressed as a part of this project, but the impact will be far less than what we looked at through our walkthrough.
So these are all the designs that we have block by block for our project on page. So this is the timeline that you can expect for this project to start to take place in your community. We've already done the public engagement currently, and throughout the Christmas season, we were working on the designs, which we presented to you this evening. And you can expect to start to see some construction on your roads during the summer and the fall of 2024. So with that, at this time, we will begin to take questions. So again, we would love if you could drop your questions in the Q&A chat, but if you would prefer to raise your hand, you can do that also. And ultimately, if there's a question that you may not feel comfortable asking aloud, then you can always write in your question or email it to our project managers. So I will wait to see if any questions come in or any participants raise their hand.
Jasmine, I wanted to point out 2 transportation items that we were able to address. Maybe so it can avoid some additional questions, but there was a request for a 4-way stop at Marlboro and Page and also Kensington at Page. Well, there are warrants that are needed to be measured to qualify for a 4-way stop, because it's not so much a speed management installation, it's more of a right-of-way situation. So like who gets the right of way when someone comes to the stop. So at Kensington and Page, it had been already evaluated and it didn't meet the warrants. And we will do an evaluation at, Kensington and Page, and the one at Marlboro and Page did not qualify. But we will evaluate at Kensington for an all-way stop. And then also the existing raised intersection at Jewett will remain, but it will be replaced in concrete during the resurfacing.
Thank you. Awesome. So we have a couple questions that have came in. So let's see. Somebody asked, this project is great, but would it be better if Jewett or Rosewood were completed at the same time in summer 2024? Is this possible so that we could walk east-west from Packard to Industrial and south-north along Page? I think this would make the neighborhood more walkable. So you should be able to see this question. Everyone should be able to see this question now that it's published. And would something like that be possible?
I can field that. We have limited funding source for sidewalk gaps. So we've got to take it piece at a time. And there's right now all of that funding is being used in other locations in addition to this one as well. So it's not that we don't want to be able to fill all the sidewalk gaps there. It's more of a funding issue.
Okay. Somebody also asked, is it possible if we could get a copy of the plans, or will the plans be published?
The plans will be published when we go out to bid. This presentation and that plan roll that you saw, where you can zoom in on your own, and I know it's going to take a long time to load if you're looking at it at the website, but those these materials will be available on the website.
Awesome, thank you. Next question, I believe that this is for Andrea. Will there be any speed management or traffic calming elements as a part of this project? such as raised intersections or raised crosswalks?
Thank you for that question. I'm happy to answer. At this time, the speed management elements is the narrowing of the road. Raised devices have not been entertained, but we are happy to discuss that off of this conversation on a more one-on-one. So feel free to reach out at resurfacing@a2gov.org. Thank you.
Mhm. Thank you. Somebody else asked this question, but I can answer it. Yes, we will publish the slides on the webpage and also a recording of this if you'd like to go back through it, probably within the next few days. Another question we have, thank you, you're welcome. Another question that we have, we really would love to save our tree or just south of Marlboro on the east side. Is there any way we could save it? And do you really need sidewalks on both sides of the street there? We love this tree very much.
That is something we can work with individually. I do believe that there was still a question about those trees on the east side, south of Marlboro, may still be, questionable whether they need to be removed or not. But during construction, what we're going to do is during the sidewalk excavation, any of the roots that are exposed, if they're greater than 2 inches, our forest manager would come out and look to see if that would harm the tree in any way. And if we can't save it, we'd have to remove it. But if she says it's going to be a healthy tree and these roots are small enough in diameter that it won't damage the tree, then we can keep the tree.
Right. The next question is there enough room for big trucks to turn from Kensington to Page? Is that possible?
It should be possible. I mean, a lot of our residential streets are now being converted into 20-foot width. And some of those have like delivery trucks, buses, emergency vehicles. If they are concerned more about like a semi truck that is maybe going to South Industrial for something, I think that they need to have a better plan to get to South Industrial than using residential streets.
Okay. All right. We don't have any questions coming in just yet, but I will wait a few minutes to see if someone is busy typing. And let me check. We don't have anyone with their hand raised. So we'll wait a few minutes. Feel free to answer or type your questions in the chat. All right, so we will move on. And if your question did not get answered, oh, look at that. Perfect timing. Someone said, we had an arborist check out our tree on our property and it would most likely be killed when the project undergoes. What is the procedure if the tree dies after construction? Our plot has a slope, so the roots would be affected.
If a private arborist would agree with the city arborist regarding the health of the tree after excavation, we would like to remove the tree. There is a canopy loss that the project will have to pay for that loss. And if there is any room within the right-of-way, between the sidewalk and the right-of-way as it exists, we can always mitigate some of that tree removal by planting new street trees, but they are going to be much smaller than what you have currently. Normally, they're about 2 inch in diameter. if they're underneath utility wires, we like to use small trees, but there is a variety of small, medium, tall trees that our forestry department can provide to me to add to the project, so we can talk to individuals who may be losing a tree if they would like to mitigate that loss with a new tree. But as far as that canopy loss I was speaking of, that's, the project has to pay that. That's not something that the residents will be receiving.
Next question, is there any future plans to add sidewalks to the remainder of Kensington?
I can field that. The rest of the sidewalks along Kensington, or the gaps to the west of Page, they do not score very high in our prioritization system. So ultimately, the goal is to fill all the sidewalk gaps in the network. But these are not on Kensington, not scheduled to come up anytime soon. So it'll probably be quite a while before that happens.
What can you say about the noise during construction? What would be the potential working hours?
Generally, we allow contractors to work from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. Monday through Saturday. There is an idling ordinance, so they can't run their trucks unless they're using them. So they can't just sit there all day while they're being loaded. You let us know anytime if construction starts prior to 7. We can have another conversation with the contractor to that regard. It will, you're going to hear some noise. It's going to be dusty and inconvenient for the duration of the project. Probably more so during the sidewalk installation than the resurfacing, as individuals will be affected by what's going on their personal properties. And also the resurfacing, although they do a lot of other things, like they do some storm drainage improvements or replacements of some storm and some curb and gutter. It's normally a kind of a fast-moving process that's a little faster than the sidewalk installation. So that might be less of a headache to you when that comes up than when we do the sidewalks.
Jane, can I add a little bit to that just for some context? So we really do try to make sure that we notify all of you as things progress through the process. So you will get notifications for installations when driveways are being replaced. Sorry, sidewalk installations, driveways are going to be replaced. When we're going to be paving and milling, we do a lot of touch points. There will also be a communication that goes out to the Page Ave residents to let you all know that there's an email distribution list that you can get on for, updates that are emailed as well. So we do lots and lots of communications and share information with you. So you will know everything, every step of the way, as much as we can give you.
The next question is the resurfacing of Page happening at the same time as the sidewalks? Will Kensington be paved around the same time?
I'll let Andrea field that. I don't know about Kensington being paved. If it was a road bond, the bond funded roads that was included, then when Page was included into resurfacing. But I do feel that we are going to start the sidewalk after July 1st, when we have the funding in the new fiscal year. That can go on prior to resurfacing coming in. Their expectation is September of 2024.
So to piggyback off that, Jane, the schedule indicates that the sidewalk and resurfacing will all happen in together. So it'll all be roughly happening in September. So all of that will go around September. Yep. But please understand that schedules change. It could move up, it could move down a little bit, but mostly it's going to happen in the bulk of September.
All right. We'll wait a few minutes in case anyone has any lingering questions. And thank you for all your questions. They're very good questions. We appreciate. All right, again, if there's a question that you think of later, that you're not comfortable enough to voice now, please feel free at any time to send an email to not only our project manager, but if something specific regarding resurfacing, this resurfacing address here at the bottom of the screen. So, the last things to look forward to are the next steps. I think we touched on this already, but the recording of this meeting, along with the meeting materials, will be published on the website that was located on your postcard. And that should be available in the coming days. So if there's somebody in your neighborhood that you would like to share this with, then you can direct them there. And also they can reach out to us as well with their questions. I know that there's a few people who have some very specifics about their driveways or so forth, or their trees, etc. So our project manager and team will coordinate with you if something comes up. And lastly, we just really appreciate and we thank you so much for coming to this meeting, and we look forward to hopefully seeing you guys again during this project time. And that is all that we have for you this evening. So thank you.
Yes,
Oh,
thank you all for coming.
Somebody asked one more question. Let's see. It says, how can we get the sidewalks for Kensington raised to a higher priority? People are always walking in the street.
I can address that. So the way you can affect the prioritization score is by submitting a petition. That a petition was submitted for Page, for example, and that bumped up the score for that. If you go to a2gov.org/new sidewalks, all one word, new sidewalks, there's a page there that explains everything about constructing new sidewalks, filling sidewalk gaps, and I believe there's a link to a petition form on there as well.
There is, and there's also a table that indicates the amount of points you get for the amount of people you have on your petition. So.
Any more questions? If not, then that is the conclusion of our meeting. And again, thank you so much for attending.
I think there's one more question, Jasmine.
Oh, they just said thank you.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, thank you all for coming. Thank all of the panelists, Nick and Andrea, for attending also. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.